Welcome to my channel.
Wife 33F said she cheated on me 30M because I'm ugly and short. Story 1-3. I caught my wife red-jobbed and I am not too proud of it. Well, I caught them. I have already stated the whole scenario in a previous question. It wasn't too pretty. But I won't talk about that. There are signs when someone is not being faithful to you. And I wish I had noticed that earlier. It begins with smaller things. There are little details that go amiss which used to be part of your daily life. For example, a peck on the cheek when leaving for work. Random hugs when you get back from work. Asking about your day. Your relationship doesn't grow. For me, love is when people grow together. Where love brings a better change in your life. This growth could be anything. A growth emotionally, in your personality, knowledge-wise, anything at all. You learn from each other. When everything becomes routine, there is nothing new to talk about or try out with your spouse. The relationship becomes dull and boring. The spark is gone, and that is when a partner or both seek that excitement of new things, love from someone else. As I said, I won't be talking about how I found out, as it wasn't too pretty, but I'll tell you a few things which would help you know for sure that your partner is going behind your back. 1. When there is someone new in your life, and you spend a considerable amount of time with them, you pick up their style or their vernacular. You begin to talk like them and use the terms they do, and you act a lot like them. Now, this someone could be at work because that is the most amount of time someone spends out of home, right? So, if your partner has picked up new expressions and words you have never heard them speak before, something is up. It is proof that they are spending a lot of time with someone else other than you. 2. In every couple, both, or at least one of them, follows a religious routine. And it has been that way for years. If your spouse has suddenly started things out of their schedule, that is something strange, isn't it? Where did this sudden routine come from? Say they have become health conscious, that is good news. But you don't see any difference. And you are not part of it when previously you did everything together? Siren in the distance. 3. The outrageous suggestions. The sudden sex drive. If you and partner haven't been sexually active for a long time, and then suddenly they want to try out new things, wild things, kinky even. This also a sign that either your partner wants something new from you in relationship which you haven't tried before, or they are willing to do these things with someone else because apparently, an affair or a high level of an emotional affair leads to sex and it makes you feel young and sigh again. So, it is likely that they are looking for it or already doing it. 4. Last but not least, their opinion about the idea of cheating. If you guys are watching a movie and the guy-girl cheats on the other, and if you are telling about the infidelity of someone in your circle, and your partner begins to act defensively, gives excuses, blames the person who was cheated on or is least bothered about it, saying that people fall out of love. Something has changed. You would know that if they were never like this. Why? Because condemning others would mean condemning oneself, and by what they are saying your partner is ready for that. As for me, I caught my wife red-jobbed and I am not too proud of it, but I used an app called Zenspy to monitor her phone. I had seen her having sex in my house, but she didn't know I was there. Later on, I used to know about their next meeting and caught them in the act. Story 2-3. My ex-fiancé worked a job that sometimes sent him out of town for various periods of time. I became pregnant with my first child, and throughout my pregnancy his out-of-town jobs became a lot more frequent, almost all of the time. Overall, he only went to one appointment, never watched an ultrasound video, didn't help put the nursery together, didn't look at all the gifts we'd received from baby showers, didn't make it to the professional pregnancy photo shoot for couples that I had set up twice with a photographer. In the end, I don't even have a single photo of us together while I was pregnant, or of us in the hospital with our son the day he was born. But he insisted business had picked up now, his employer gave him no choice, plus we needed the money anyway for when the baby came and I went on my unpaid maternity leave. So I hid my loneliness, sadness over what I felt was frankly a very disappointing pregnancy experience that I was having or not having, rather with him, and supported him for working as hard as he was. Then the baby comes, and even though he had supposedly already worked out taking a week off, he informed me in the hospital that he was leaving again for a job in a few days. So the day after we brought our son home from the hospital, I was on my own again, but still I showed nothing but support appreciation. After all, he was working hard to provide for us, our family, right? Wrong. My son was about 3.5 weeks old the next last time we saw him for months. He unexpectedly got to join us on a trip to a family member's ranch for a week, saying the crew on his job got the week off, and naturally I was over the moon about finally spending time with him, our new baby. He'd missed my entire pregnancy, having been gone so much lately we had started growing apart. But it was a great week. We'd spend most of each day with our new baby, the rest of it doing stuff just us two, getting much needed one-on-one time together. He was affectionate, sweet, had conversations with my father about marrying me, even drove to get his other two kids midweek so they could join us too. Once it was over, we made the trip home and all talked about when we'd go back. The next day, just like he'd done 100 times, he kissed me goodbye, left to bring his eldest son back to his ex. I told him I'd get dinner started and off he went. After he'd been gone way longer than it usually takes him, I sent him a text making sure he was okay. He responded he needed to go by his best friend's house and he'd be home a little later, not sure when. I was kinda pissed, because it was out of nowhere. I had started dinner, plus he was leaving the next morning to go back out of town, plus we still needed to wash clothes and get him packed. And he was going to be gone a really long time for this trip. I'd been expecting he'd spend his last evening at home with me, our newborn son. But you're going to a friend's house? Nonetheless, I didn't beach. I just said okay and sat there with an uneasy feeling. The hours ticked by and I finally just went to bed, growing angrier with each passing hour. The next thing I knew, I was waking up to the baby crying, needing a bottle. It's 4 a.m., and his side of the bed is still empty. He wasn't home. He'd never done something like that before, so immediately I'm worried something bad has happened. I tend to the baby and start jobbing up his phone with calls and "where are you?" I'm worried texts. I start calling hospitals, jails, messaging his buddy on FB because I didn't have his number, asking if my fiancé was still there because I was worried. It was a rough morning. Finally around 9 a.m. I get a text from him, not a phone call. A text, all it says is "I'm fine, I'll be home soon." Try to call him, no answer. He strolls in sometime later, since at this point I've realized nothing bad happened to prevent him from coming home or calling me. My overall sentiment changed from one of concern to severe indignation. He was incredibly cold to me about it. The only explanation he gave was that he got drunk, stayed on his buddy's couch. But he wasn't apologetic at all, didn't care that I'd been worried sick, didn't care I was hurt. He was ice cold about it, so I knew he was full of something was up. But he just packed up his bag, swiftly left for his trip. A couple days later I got an 8-word "Dear John" text. Yep, a text. The one time I convinced him to talk to me on the phone because I deserved some effing answers, he denied there was someone else. Just acted like he couldn't get past really old issues that had long been resolved, which didn't make sense, and that this was my fault but couldn't tell me how or why. However, he did admit to actually asking to go on those jobs out of town while I was pregnant and right after I'd had the baby. He was never forced to go on them. Found out barely 2 weeks later, but not through him, that he'd cheated on me with his ex when they started posting about being engaged on FB. As if that wasn't enough, eventually I also found out about an affair he'd had with a girl that lived out of town where he went for many of those jobs. Who knows how many there were total. I'm sure there were more, especially since his numerous previous declarations about having such an unwavering "I never cheat" principle turned out to be a bit fictitious, just like his later swearing that it was only one time with one woman, which of course promptly changed to only 2, but like I mean it for real this time after discovering I had done my homework. So yeah, that's my story. Thank God for all the info you can find online about narcissism. What a douche, right? Lol. Redditors' reactions. Redditor 1, this story triggers me so much. I was pregnant with my ex-narc too. I miscarried 17 weeks in. I still feel an incredible heartache that let myself get so stressed all the time and to cry and be anxious to the point I miscarried instead of leaving and taking care of my baby. This is something I will never forgive myself. He so wanted to have a baby, but once I got pregnant, he started acting out. Drinking, missing the appointments and going out with friends instead, vanishing for the night, yelling at me. Believe me, it's painful now. You're frustrated, heartbroken, disappointed, I know it all. But you are so better without him, even though that's not how you imagined your family. You have your son. Once you heal, you'll appreciate the inner peace you can feel without that constant BS from him. He didn't even have lickings to say goodbye to you in a decent way. I know it's hard to be a single mom. My mom raised me and my sister by herself when my father decided to look for greener grass, never found it though, and now is hoovering us when he's old and lonely. But you have your son and you now have an open road for happiness once you heal. With him it would be constant frustration, anxiety and waiting for him to kindly find time for you. You'd walk on eggshells constantly, he'd treat your home like a hotel, he'd do as he pleases, taking care of his child? Nah, there are friends inviting him out. Plus he'll cheat on every woman he's going to be with. Healing is hard as heck, but truly, you lost nothing. Redditor 2, words cannot express how profoundly sorry I am for your loss, and how grateful I am for your bravery and willingness to share your story. It is because of women like you that I even have the ground to stand on these days to learn and understand what's happened, and to heal from it. I'm sorry that my story triggers what must be immeasurable sadness for you. It really is undeniable how similar our situations were. I imagine if we were to sit down and share the whole story with each other, we'd be jobbing away. But you are right, my son is with me here today, and it's because of what you said that I've promised myself I will be more grateful and cognizant of what matters, focusing more on my blessings than my misfortunes. Thank you for sharing, and for reminding me just how big of a bullet I am truly dodging. Story 3-3. I caught him cheating on a girl with me. I decided to give him another chance because he wailed and shook when he confessed to me. He seemed genuine and I forgave him. I didn't believe him to be a bad person, and I did recognize signs of depression when we first started dating. So, anyway, before he confessed, I asked him if we should share phone and email passwords, etc. He told me that we weren't going to be that kind of couple. Me? Huh? Him, the kind of couple that doesn't trust one another and invades each other's privacy. Me? Huh? So, I consulted with people to get some advice, and while I didn't pressure him into sharing his passwords, I didn't notice how he used his phone until after he confessed. Instantly, he let his notifications come through with drop-down banners, and they would also show on his lock screen. His phone was always going off. After I forgave him, I noticed he turned off the notifications, so all I could do was hear the ringers. He wouldn't unlock his phone unless I was away from him, and if I was near to him he would curve his phone so I couldn't see the screen. I told him we need to share PW now, and he still said no. He told me that I trust him or I don't. Kinda hard to trust someone who is untrustworthy, buddy. Anyway, things seemed to get better, then SX declined steeply. He would work out twice a day but be too lazy for SX. I have a really high SX drive, so that drove me mad. How the heck can you be too lazy for SX but work out twice a day? I tried compromising. Okay, 3x a week, 2x. Once a week? We went 3 weeks without having SX and I broke down crying. He tried to initiate then, but I refused. I don't want your stupid pity penis now. I didn't say that. He looked at me confused. I mean, commande, I can't even begin to tell you how that was ducking with my self-esteem, especially after the cheating. Well, he got pissed that I cried, slammed the door and took a shower. He also started being lazier than ever when it came to housework. I was over it, just biding my time until it was feasible for me to move out. One night I heard him snoring in the room while his phone was still playing a video. That never happened in our 2-year history. I grabbed his phone and looked. He was talking to his ex-GF that he cheated on her with me in a sexual way. She knows he cheated, but still talked to him as well as about 12 other women. All generic messages. None really differentiating from the next. He cried again, but couldn't explain why he was doing it. I mean, I listed a bunch of reasons and he just kept saying, I don't know. I told him I was moving out. He wrote down his passwords on a paper, jobed it to me and then told me he would go to therapy. The therapists have been booked. I scheduled it for next month about 3 months ago. A couple days ago I went to grab my wallet on the couch that was beside him along with his phone, and when I bent down to retrieve my wallet he reached for his phone like he was the Flash. Then last night while he was falling asleep, I reached for the remote that lay beside him that was also next to his phone, and he jolted half asleep and grabbed my arm. Not sure what therapy will help at this point. Redditors' reactions. Redditor 1, if he will cheat with you, he will cheat on you. Your relationship lasting is over unless you want it to be an open relationship or transfer it to duck buddy status. Otherwise, get out before you get hurt worse. I think also you might need some therapy for reasons I won't get into. Just a hunch. Redditor 2, harsh love incoming. You need to get out of that relationship. He's cheated many times and he's shown he'll keep doing it. This relationship is like reading the same book over and over again but accepting a different ending. Much love and best wishes, B.
Thank you for watching. Comment what do you think about this situation. Don't forget to like and subscribe.